Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Football Guys Best Ball Show. As always, Dave Kluge here, and I am joined with James Brimacombe. And James, we made it through week one of the NFL season and had some good takes and had some bad takes, but hey, it's still early and we're not trying to overreact quite yet. What we're going to do today, though, is take a look at some of these in-season contests that Underdog is running, which look like a lot of fun. I did a Hail Mary last week, threw a few of these Battle Royale entries in there as well. Talk us through kind of what you're looking at with these. We've got some of the big contests as well. The bomb with $100 buy-in, and we've got there's just a lot going on. So how are you kind of attacking these new contests?
Yeah, so I mean, I did a few last week, just with best ball, just so many drafts and whatnot. So it was kind of hard to turn over and to hit these up. But I've done these in the past, so I don't know if people remember back in the day, draft was before Underdog, so Play Draft I think was the app, but they basically did these all throughout the every single week, and they had different tournaments for these, and then you could advance, and then draft a new team the next week if you advance. But yeah, they were a lot of fun, and basically these are similar. I've had a lot of success on Underdog with the dailies. I've done like with golf there. I did that for a while, so golf was a big boost for me. But yeah, I'm gonna try to do the same with NFL. And yeah, they're really fun. It's just quick drafts, 6 players. You're against 6 opponents, and you're just trying to draft the most upside you can. Huge prizes. So last week was 40,000 to first. This week is 50,000, I believe, to first. So it's actually a nice break from DFS if you're playing, DraftKings, FanDuel, Yahoo, whatever. So this is kind of a different game, and everyone, there's no salary cap, nothing, so it's just kind of the fates in your hands of how the draft goes.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild with how small the player pool is here. Looking right now, I've got the details pulled up. You can take a look. Like you said, 50,000 to first place, but you also 20,000 for second, 8,000 for third. I mean,
Mhm.
we got some pretty big payouts on the top end here. Top 14,000 people are getting back at least $7. And total, I'm trying to find that. Oh, 56,000 entrants. So you got about a 1 in 4 chance of making a little bit of money back on this one. Now, the one thing that really jumps out to me is how small the player pool is here. We're looking at
Mhm.
6 people per draft and 6 rounds total. So you're looking at pretty much the top 36 players, but then you take 6 QBs out, you take 6 tight ends out, and you are left with a pretty small pool overall, just kind of the top 24 flex players, running backs and wide receivers. So there's a lot that we can talk about as far as strategy goes, but are you trying to kind of only pick players in that top 24, or are you willing to try to go down the board and get some later round guys? In the final rounds, are you willing to really go out on a flyer trying to differentiate yourself from the field?
Yeah, last week I heard a lot of people saying that, like, hey, let's get a little different, get these guys, they're gonna be lower owned, whatnot. But last week was just smashed by all the star players. So I
Yeah.
think you can play it a lot of different ways. So you can play it that way. I mean, they're $5. You can do, a few of each way, and see what you like, and kind of you have leverage even off yourself on those chalky builds. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to build there. When I used to do the draft, I used to actually do an article on Football Guys, and every week I would do my rankings for this specifically. So I always felt like the earlier you draft in the week, the better, so you can kind of do some of your own research before the injury news goes out, kind of the matchup news, and then Underdog's going to have different ADPs and different rankings on their set. So you want to do your custom rankings. Like that's really what you want to pay attention to first before you dive into these. And then it's the basic kind of things just in DFS. Best ball is you're looking at stacking, and maybe a run back on the other side. And you're just looking for the highest scoring games, and you hope you have those players in those high scoring games. So I love this format just because there's not a lot of content out there. So I feel like everyone is more on equal grounds. So I don't think anyone has more of an advantage over the next one. But hopefully, me and you can kind of share some insights, and maybe whoever's watching this stream have a little bit more edge.
Yeah. Now, I what I noticed this week, and again, this is a weird week. It's week one. There's a lot of flukiness that happens, but it didn't seem like any of the top builds had stacking when we looked at the finish at the end of the week. Now, it's, when you look at it, Kirk Cousins didn't have a huge week, but Justin Jefferson did. Cooper
Mhm.
Kupp had a huge week, and Matthew Stafford didn't. So, do you think this is something where it still makes sense to continue trying to stack, or are you okay just kind of drafting a high end quarterback and a high end wide receiver and not really too concerned with stacking a single game?
I think the stacks is. I mean, it's hard. You like if you had Mark Andrews, you want Lamar maybe, but if you don't get Lamar, I mean, you still can get Hurts and Kyler and like Mahomes. Like it doesn't really matter. Those QBs are pretty similar. Like even this week, you needed Mahomes, right? He was the top guy. So I mean, Mahomes and Kelsey, you needed paired together, kind of. So yeah, I
You
don't
got a
know.
nice one.
I think you can go either way. If there's only 6 QBs, so you can go down past those top 6 projections and then get your stack, or you can just play the top 6 and just hope they do their normal 300 3 touchdown kind of game.
Yeah, and we talked all offseason about how there's kind of a top 6 just overall in fantasy. We kind of had that clear-cut top 6 quarterbacks. It's a little bit
Mhm.
different this week because they aren't all playing on the main slate, but looking at the top 6 right now in ADP on Underdog: Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, Tom Brady. Then after that, I mean, the pickings do get pretty slim. A few names that jump out to me: Jameis Winston had himself a great week one. Love to see that. Trey Lance, awful week one, but we still know that he's got the ceiling with the rushing upside. Playing against a division opponent at home, he could have a nice bounce back. Outside of these top 6, though, I think those are the only 2 guys that really intrigue me at all. Maybe if you get Cooper Kupp, you can hope on a bounce back. Atlanta got shredded last weekend by the Saints, so we could see the Rams get back on track this week. Maybe if you get Cooper Kupp early, you go for Matthew Stafford a little bit later. But really, I mean, it's Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Russ Wilson, Derek Carr, Tom Brady, maybe Stafford, maybe Lance, maybe Jameis. Those are really the only quarterbacks I'm interested in this week.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to know where to go with QB, and that goes into kind of theory too. It's like
Let's
maybe you don't take QB until round 6.
we are on the clock right now. That happened real quick on us,
Okay,
James.
there you go. Yeah.
I've got Saquon Barkley as my RB1. We saw them get shredded. Carolina got absolutely shredded last week. Is it crazy to take Saquon here, or who are you looking at? Or do we want Devonta Adams to go with what could be a shootout against Arizona?
Yeah, I'd go wide receiver. Just you're gonna see running backs gonna be available. Wide receivers go really fast in these, so that's another advice I would say. There's gonna be huge wide receiver runs at the start of these.
And sure enough, we
Um,
see that in the first 4 picks. Jonathan Taylor, number 1 off the board, makes sense. And then Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Devonta Adams. So running wide receivers are running quickly.
mhm.
With the next pick, are you interested in any of these? Christian McCaffrey had a really, stinker of a performance considering how much we've been hyping him up this offseason. But Joe Mixon saw 9 targets. DeAndre Swift didn't see a ton of volume, but had a very efficient game. Debo Samuel didn't look too great, was graded pretty poorly by PFF, didn't have a great week. Mark Andrews down week as well. Where are you kind of looking at with this next pick?
I like. I don't want to say it because we're on the clock here in 7 seconds. Yeah, I like McCaffrey. So I want to actually target players because this tournament's going to be it's so big and it's so top heavy at the top. So I want players that maybe had a bad week and I'm getting a discount. So like McCaffrey definitely is on that list for me. And I only like to go one running back in these as well.
Yep.
So yeah, I think you can go 2 running backs if it falls to you later, but I think the strategy is 3 receivers. That's kind of how I like to play it. So now you're locked in McCaffrey, but I mean Swift's amazing too, and Javonte Williams. Like if they fall near the end, I think they're worth it too.
Javonte Williams, man, 11 targets last night. I mean, we were hoping that he was going to get that pass catching role. And not only did he get it, but he drew more targets than any other running back in week one. We got our good friend Davis Peng in the chat saying, hello, friends. So let's give Davis a quick little hello here. And then we are back on the clock in just a few picks. I don't know if anybody is watching the show that's currently in this draft, but it's just we handicap ourselves by streaming these shows. Mike Evans is a pick that jumps out to me here if he slides to us at 3-4, especially with Chris Godwin expected to be out.
Mhm.
Mike Evans is back to the early offseason Mike Evans that we loved, expected to see a ton of volume. So that would be a nice slide. Who else are you looking at? Do you want to try to lock in Darren Waller and get that elite tight end? Do you think that gives you an advantage? Kyle
See,
Pitts coming off a bad week one. Who are you looking at?
Yeah, see, like I think Waller's like over his ADP is too high here. His projection's too high, and I prefer Pitts over him. So that's why I like the custom ranks. Like I definitely think you want to do that first
Mhm.
going into these. Yeah, and like you said, Mike Evans, like that's the news. Like Chris Godwin is not officially ruled out yet. So, but we can kind of speculate that, and we know Evans, his target share is going to go up. So I you could go Evans, like if Fournette is the same, like he might get extra work too.
And Fournette just went off the board. That was a pretty savvy pick there. I mean, Fournette was a guy that you and I were both beating the drum for all offseason. Got to love his week one usage. You think maybe we jump the gun a little bit on McCaffrey? I mean, I don't mind the pick, but looking at Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb, James Conner, most people are going one running back here.
Right.
So, you know, I think we got to go Evans with this pick,
Yeah,
unless
I
there's
think
somebody else
Evans.
that you really like.
I actually have like what do I have? Devonta Adams. He's like my 102 in this format, and so we already grabbed him. I like JT number one, but yeah, I had then Adams and Cup and Chase, and like I think Debo for a bounce back too. So I'm looking at those bounce back types in this.
I
Yeah,
think the
there's
concern with Mike Evans this week for sure is that he's going to be drawing coverage from Marshawn Lattimore, who
mhm,
Marshawn Lattimore does a good job against those big receivers. And we saw him shut down Kyle Pitts this week. So that could be why he's sliding a little bit. But also at the end of the day, if you're getting 12 to 15 targets from Tom Brady, I don't think it really matters who's covering you.
right. Yeah, but
So I
on
know
the
you talked about liking Pitts. We're up on the clock now with this next pick. Is Pitts the move here, do you think?
well, like click on the tight ends. Like let's see what you're working with.
Because after Pitts, it's Dalton Schultz, Zach Ertz,
Yeah,
Pat Fryermuth. I think
yeah.
you got to go Pitts here. Huge
Pitts
fall
is
off after this.
easy. Yeah, and I think he has a bounce back week, and you see him next week going in the first, second round in these things. Like
And now the nice thing is too, we have options with quarterbacks.
mhm.
We know that we're probably going to get Tom Brady or Derek Carr. Um, let me see. I'm going to take a look at the board and see how many quarterbacks have gone off the board. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. So we still have one, two, three teams that are
Well,
in need of a quarterback.
but if you look up top here, yeah, it's just this guy right here picking is the only guy, and he's a QB. So only one of those is going to go off the board.
So what I'm saying is, do we try to get another flex player here with 504 and then take whoever is standing between Derek Carr and Tom Brady, or do we lock in one of those guys right now?
No, I think you wait to the sixth round.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because Russell Wilson probably goes, and then we'll get our choice of either Derek Carr or Tom Brady. Is my thought process here. So we probably want to go with another wide receiver here. I don't think there's any
I mean,
point in taking.
you could also go Wilson and then look for Judy or Sutton if they're still there.
Yeah,
But I also like Michael Thomas paired with Mike Evans for the bring back. And that even opens up Jameis too. Like if
yeah,
you wanted to go that way and be a little bit more unique.
that's a nice move there. And then we saw Hollywood Brown. Already went off the board here. I was going to say he's a guy who could
Mhm.
bounce back after a pretty disappointing week one. Salvaged his performance with a touchdown, but did not have the boom game that we wanted to see from him. There goes Tom Brady off the board. So with our next pick, this guy is probably going to be taking a quarterback, but he doesn't have anybody on. So we got to hope that this guy tries to stack. I really like the idea of having the Michael Thomas bring back here. So let's go ahead and lock that in. And then with our final pick, we're going to be going quarterback. And, I like Derek Carr
Yeah,
here.
Carr or Jameis. Like if you want to be a little bit of leverage, because
Yeah.
Jameis might only be 5% owned in this, and if he goes for 30 points, that's going to be nice for you. But
Well, I think we just laid out the blueprint on how to do this, regardless of who we get here, whether it's Derek Carr or Jameis Winston. We got big horse on the clock here. Let's see who are coming up without a quarterback. And he's got Javonte Williams. So we got to imagine that big horse is probably going with Russ here. But let's see what move they
You
make.
know, you could also go Trey Lance too. Just like we want the rushing, like he's in a world of hurt right now, and maybe he has to come out and rush it for 80 yards and a couple touchdowns. Then you're going to get a huge ceiling there.
Well, Big Horse went and skipped over the Javonte Williams Russ Wilson stack to draft a naked Carson Wentz. So that's the other thing you got to take into consideration with
Taste
these drafts is sometimes crazy stuff happens.
Taysom Hill went next after that too.
Yep. Yeah, double dipped with his quarterback and tight end in the 5th and 6th round there to close out that draft. And weird things happen. But I mean, Taysom Hill, he was a guy you were drafting a little bit of Taysom Hill this offseason, right? You got to be kind of excited by that usage we saw.
I mean, I was drafting him for like 5 days, and then it's like, that's enough. So yeah,
I was giving
I
you a
missed
chance to
it.
victory lap there. That's when
No,
what you're supposed to do, James. Is I told you guys you should have listened to me, but I appreciate the modesty. But I think this works out perfectly. We get the Derek Carr and Devonta Adams stack, which what I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but was it 48% or 49% target share that Devonta Adams
I
drew?
already
I
had
mean,
like
he was getting
17 targets. Yeah,
oh
it
my
was nuts. It was wild. But I mean, Carr didn't have the numbers, but definitely Adams has it. So hopefully, I mean, Carr can get in the end zone.
I mean, Arizona looked terrible last week on both sides of
Mhm.
the ball. I mean, they just looked absolutely terrible. So, we talked about it all offseason that there were going to be some shootouts, in the AFC West and NFC West, and already kind of seeing that early. We might have nailed that one. So we got the Derek Carr and Devontae Adams stack. I love Mike Evans and Michael Thomas. We got the bring back with both of those guys playing off against each other. Chris McCaffrey, who just seems like a slam dunk at the as the top three running back this week, and then Kyle Pitts. So I'm happy with how that one turned out. Do you want to do another one of these battle royales? We've also got the Hail Mary, which you only get one shot at. Did one of these last week, and my entry was terrible. Or do we want to just
Yeah.
keep sticking with the battle
Let's
royale?
do this again and talk some more game theory through it, because I think these are the ones people are gonna be playing the most. They're easy to draft, take a few minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean,
and-
yeah, what are we? We're less than 17 minutes into the show. We open up the show talking for 5 minutes and already got one of these in. So they go quick. I mean, this is a good
so
way
you're
to
already
spend your lunch
back on the
break.
clock.
Yep, and we're gonna be up here in 3 picks. So,
I
walk
mean,
us through. Who's your top 3? How do you list these guys out in your rankings?
I'm just looking at my phone here. I have my rankings pulled up. I have JT, then I have Devonte Adams, then Cup, then Chase, then I have actually Debo, which maybe that's a stretch there, but and then I have CMC, Mixon. Like either one of those, I think is good with Barkley as well.
Talk
Um,
me through and again, this is a player day
mhm.
here, and I
Yeah,
like the game theory conversation that we have, but just talk me through Adams over Cup. Is that a strong stance, or are you just kinda looking at these guys as pretty equal?
Adams over Cup. I think A Rob's going to get some usage, and I think Akers could get back, and Henderson. Like I think it's week one. Yeah, and Cup he's incredible. We know he's incredible every week, but I just think that's going to be spread out a little bit more, maybe. And
Gotta hope so.
there has to be more running in there too, and it's Atlanta, so that's kind of my thinking. Like
Yeah, that they
they
might
don't,
just beat him down.
yeah. Like and with Adams, it's more you're playing Arizona, and we just saw what KC did, and we just saw how much Carr loves Adams. So I just think that he's my number one receiver this week for sure.
Well, here we go. Entry number 2 with Devonta Adams as our first pick. So, why not? We might end up with a similar build here, but let's see how it shakes out. And
And I
that
think
yeah,
even Chase, like Higgins could be out too. So like Chase, just like with
mhm,
Mike Evans, like I think there's sharp plays right now if you go Chase and Evans because of the number two receivers on those teams. Like
yeah,
so there could be more target share for both of those guys.
that's a good point. Now, we might be getting Christian McCaffrey. All right, Christian McCaffrey off the board. I know you said that you like Debo. This could definitely be a Debo game, but this also, this seems like one of those the 49ers coming off an embarrassing loss, the Seahawks coming up off of a huge underdog win. I could
Mhm.
see the tables flipping on this one pretty easily, but do you want to go with Debo here, or do we
I,
want to go with Mixon or Swift?
I think Mixon or Swift, but like you said last draft, a lot of these running backs fall. So and you could go to Debo, and then if you miss on Mixon Swift, there's still you get Chubb and Fournette. So
Let's go with Mixon here just to shake things up a little bit. I mean, well, and I'll just talk about Mixon for a second. 9 targets last week. I mean, that's impressive. That is a career high for Mixon. We have wanted to see Joe Mixon take on a larger role in the passing game as long as he's been in the league. He finishes the season, it seems like, every single year with right around 50 targets. Finally saw it last year. So if he can get goal line work and passing down work on an explosive offense, Mixon could be set up for even a bigger year coming off an RB5 finish. And then again, I like Tyreek Hill here. He goes off the board. I mean, are we doing this again? Mike Evans in the third. It seems like a smash pick in this format.
yeah, I think you have to. I think he's projected too low on this format.
Yeah. So pretty similar to our last build. We had Chris McCaffrey as the running back, and we have Joe Mixon as the running back here, but overall not too different. Maybe what we do on this one is hope Brady falls to us in the 6th so we can switch it up a little bit rather than going with the Adams and Carr stack. We're up in a few picks here. We've already got our one running back. So you said you like going one running back and 3 wide receivers. I see a lot of other people going 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Is there a reason that you prefer going heavier on the wide receiver side?
They just always seem to have more of a blow up kind of game in them. Like if that game goes to overtime, anything, if it's a shootout, you're going to get probably more wide receiver points. Like maybe not though. Maybe it's one of the running backs going off too for 3 touchdowns. So, but I think it's more likely like the odds are more in your favor for the receivers. They're also a lot less likely to get hurt. Like I don't know if like what the stats are on that, but I just feel like running
Just
back,
gut.
you're
You've been
taking
watching football long enough,
yeah, you just take a lot more risk with when you go running backs. So,
Yeah,
but
and I just
like
did a show with Matt Kelly earlier today, and we were talking about that in their injury predictor, their main denominator in there, like the main factor that goes into predicting injuries is how many hits they take. And that's why running backs are through the roof. And guys like Debo Samuel are more likely to get hurt than, guys like Jamar Chase, who aren't seeing quite as many touches and tackles every single game. No, I got to say, we're just sitting here talking about wanting wide receivers. I do love Leonard Fournette here, but the 2-2 running back
yeah,
wide receiver build is a little
well, you already have Evans. That's the problem too, right? Because
and
you
that's
got to.
how much do we want to stack up? Because I was thinking get Fournette here and then Brady, but that might be a little bit too much on the Buccaneers. So who jumps out to you here? I mean, Monroe St. Brown, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas. I've already talked about quite a these guys. I mean, we just took Michael Thomas in the last draft that we did. I don't know if we want to have the same 3 wide receivers. Who are you taking here? This
I
pick
think
is all you.
Amon-Ra was a good pick here. So,
I'm
but there's
eating crow on Amon-Ra early. Normally I don't overreact to week 1, but I am willing to say it. I was wrong. I should not have faded Amon-Ra St. Brown. He looked great last week.
and looking at that board now, maybe we should have went Lamb, just with the Mixon. You hope Mixon,
Yeah.
puts up the big game, and then you got Lamb on the bring back. But then you also you
Are we
don't
really
know what.
trusting a
Yeah,
Cooper Rush-led offense? I mean, against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's defense is a little suspect, so they might be able to run up the score there, but not too crazy about
mhm.
that. So I think we go. I mean, this team might be exactly the same as the last team we drafted, just with Joe
Yeah,
Mixon instead of
you're
Christian
gonna have to
McCaffrey.
force yourself to be different, right? But I think it's Pitts again. Like I
I mean,
just
yeah,
don't
yeah.
understand how you don't take. I mean, you could go Schultz maybe.
Nah, nah. I mean, we could have gone Schultz again, kind of the same reason for taking CeeDee
Same
Lamb,
reason
but
there.
and now here we are hoping for Derek Carr or Tom Brady yet again. I think if we have our choice, we'll go with Tom Brady just to switch it up a little bit from the last team that we built. And I've got
Or
a little more faith.
you could be crazy and go Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon stack too.
There you go. Yeah, we got 3 solid options here.
All those targets you told me about to
Yeah,
Mixon.
I'm going to switch it up this way. I'm going to go Joe Burrow as our first choice. Tom Brady is our second choice. And then if we have to, in case of emergency, we'll take Derek Carr. Let's go Joe Burrow here. Might have thrown, what was it, 4 picks last week, but, still Joe Burrow. Put up 338 yards. Can't be upset about that. So this one's a little bit different than the last one we did, but we also have a very similar wide receiver core and Kyle Pitts. So 3 of 6 of our players have been the same on both of these builds so far.
Yeah, so you probably like if you do another one, don't go Adams, go Cup, or take one
Chase.
of the Cup or Chase instead, because they're all kind of similar in projections and whatnot. So, are you doing another one already? There you go.
Already fired up, and that one went right off the bat. So here we are, 101. Can we get crazy on this one and go with Saquon?
You do what you want to do.
I mean, I got to say, Carolina just got shredded on the ground last week, and oh, that's McCaffrey. That is not Saquon. But Carolina got shredded on the ground last week, and man, Saquon Barkley, he's back. I'm not ready to crown a lot of these guys as back yet. Michael Thomas, sure, he had his 2 touchdowns, but he's still looking a little old and stiff out there. And Chris McCaffrey didn't see his normal workload, but Saquon Barkley looked like the rookie Saquon Barkley that we fell in love with. And one of the most exciting things for me about Saquon is that he had the second most red zone attempts, red zone carries of any running back last week. So he's seeing everything. He's doing everything you want to see from a very productive fantasy running back. He's in the hurry up offense. He's getting third down works. He's getting goal line touches. He's kind of doing all of it. So just a fun way to kind of differentiate ourselves from the field a little bit, going Saquon 101 here.
So if we had to redo best ball season, where would you rank Barkley?
Top 5.
No.
I mean, I think if I knew that Saquon Barkley was going to look this healthy and I knew that he was getting this workload, not top 5. I'd put him at 6th overall. I think I'd still prefer Chase to him, but knowing what we know now about Barkley, I'd be taking him ahead of Eckler.
Yeah. I don't even know if Eckler would be a first rounder.
Yeah, I made that trade.
Diggs and Adams are going to be in there, and Kelsey like ahead of him.
True.
I would say.
And I made a trade in Dynasty a few months ago, and I offered somebody my Saquon Barkley, my Austin Eckler for their Saquon Barkley and a third, and they responded without the third. So I just traded. I got rid of Eckler and got Barkley straight up. Shared it on Twitter, and I was getting shredded. People hated that trade in Dynasty, but through 1 week, I'm feeling pretty good about it so far.
Yeah, it's funny how like 1 week, like I don't know, just need to not look at my teams.
Now this would be ideal. Here we are 2 picks out. If we're picking at the turn, if we can lock in that RB1, and then I mean we're going to be dumpster diving for wide receivers here, but I think a Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson stack at the 1 or at the 2-3 turn would be pretty fun.
No, I like that.
I'm sure one of those guys will go off the board before we're on the clock, but we can dream.
I would imagine it would be Andrews, but
yeah. And I'm sure both of these guys, Socrates and Sam Anderson, are both saying, well, maybe if I take Mark Andrews or Lamar, the other guy will wrap back around to me. If they draft one of these guys, I'm going to draft the other one just to blow their stack.
Well, that's actually
there it goes. Do we play a little defense here and take Lamar Jackson?
I mean, then you can always get Bateman later too, so it's not like the worst.
All right, little petty with that pick, but we'll do it. And then let's look at the best wide receivers because I'm not crazy about paying up for any of these tight ends. Do you go Mike Evans again? I mean, Mike Evans just feels like a free space this week with the projected volume that he's going to be seeing.
I mean, it's your third team, and it'll be the third time you take him. So yeah. Or we could go double running back this time too, just to change it up. So I like Swift as well.
There you go. All right. We're getting real different with this one. And I know Sam Anderson, if you're watching the show, I'm sorry, you're probably punching air right now, but could not let you get that Andrews Jackson stack. Got a little petty there. And you went with Mike Evans, so still got a good pick. But yeah, man, looking at Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift, both of these guys, after watching them play week 1, it's just like that they look like they could be the overall RB1. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is great, don't get me wrong, but Saquon Barkley and DeAndre Swift are looking like 2 guys that should not have been second-round picks in best ball this year.
Well, actually, I was saying, where would you rank Barkley? But even the same with Swift, like I could see them both middle first round, like ahead of Eckler. So
now the one thing I'll say is with DeAndre Swift, he just got pulled off the field once they were inside the 20. Like I said, Saquon Barkley had the second most red zone carries. Well, he actually had the third most. There were 2 guys that tied for more red zone carries than Saquon Barkley. Jonathan Taylor, makes a ton of sense. You know who had the most red zone touches last week? Jamal Williams.
Yeah. Well, I was watching that game, right? But yeah, Swift did all the work, and he was just like probably just like a little winded. Like next game might be different though. Like they might keep him out there on the goal line. I think it was more like those runs to get him in those spots were just incredible.
Yeah, he'd rip off a 50-yarder, and then he'd be on the bench, catching his breath, and then Jamal Williams would punch it in. Maybe next week we just see Swift finish those runs, or maybe they get a big passing play that sets him up the goal line, because we know Swift is a very effective goal line runner. I mean, we've seen it through his first 2 years in the league. He's great at the goal line, so hopefully we see some of those going his way again. So here we are now. At this point, we are only looking at wide receivers and tight ends. Couldn't care about quarterbacks or running backs. We got those locked up.
So I don't mind looking at the run backs on these guys. So DJ Moore and McLaurin, I think they both could make sense. And then you could also do Bateman as your last pick.
McLaurin is the guy, not Dotson.
You could go Dotson.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I'm not trying to overreact to anything. So right. even when you say, Barkley or over McCaffrey, I'm still pushing back a little bit on that one. But
yeah, just trying to have some fun with this one.
Yeah.
Let's see here though. Do you think it's too early to because we're only getting two wide receivers. So do we go DJ Moore and Bateman here, lock both of those up, and then just take whatever tight end is standing, or do we take Dalton Schultz here? No correlation, nothing there.
Oh
Let's go
yeah,
with the wide receivers here, I think, right?
maybe go wide receiver and then a tight end.
So what tight ends do
Or
we have?
yeah, either or go two receivers. You can go Bateman, that's fine, and then we'll figure out tight end later.
So let's see. I mean, Gesicki Gesicki, he'd give us the run back with Lamar, but that was looking pretty gross. We're not going with Tommy
Logan
Tremble.
Thomas might be a guy that's like nobody's taken. Like I didn't even touch him, and I didn't know why people took him. Kittle's not a bad option either, just because if he gets ruled out, and then I'm pretty sure we can swap. So
Yeah.
So that's not something we've talked about yet, a swap thing. But as long as they're marked, I think questionable, you're good. When they get ruled out, they'll just in your rankings, they'll just swap to the next guy. So like if Kittle doesn't play, then we just get Schultz, and then it's kind of fine.
Or Ertz or Freiermuth or whoever.
Yeah, and then Kittle's not going to be very high owned either, right?
Yeah,
because of that. So.
Now, what I will say is Logan Thomas, he pulled 6 targets, and we talked about that a little bit during the offseason shows that, progressed from his injury a little bit quicker than expected. We talked about how Carson Wentz really likes targeting his tight ends. So not a terrible option, with a 6'5", 6'6" body. He's definitely a guy, if he's pulling targets, he's probably going to stumble into the end zone quite a few times this year. So I do like Logan Thomas, but I think that Kittle here definitely gives us the ceiling.
Yeah, and then when you update your ranks or whatever, Kittle gets ruled out, and then if you have Logan Thomas there, that he'll just slide in. So
happy with either of these picks, and looks like everybody in front of us already has a tight end, so we'll get our choice between Kittle and Thomas. I think we're going Kittle for sure, and then we'll have Thomas as next up in the rankings.
I know we did it a few times there, but we were looking kind of ahead at the board and stuff, who people have. But that's something you really want to do in these, especially after like second round, because you're gonna draft. You don't want to draft a quarterback when you don't have to, because the 3 guys in the pick next already have quarterbacks. So you want to take the best skill position. So especially those onesie positions, that's definitely one of the things you need to look at in these.
So we got that done. That is 3. James, we're at 32 minutes. You think we can get 2 more in? Just do a solid 5 in this show?
Hopefully you win $25 back.
Let's hope
on
so.
One of these. Hopefully you win $50,000.
That would be really nice. I mean,
maybe we do a different strategy here.
Yeah, of course. We're trying to get different. That's the whole point. Hopefully we can go back and share this show on Monday morning and say, see, we drafted the $50,000 winner during the show. But let's see. So here, this is the first time, and this is what's fun to do, is we are picking from everywhere. We picked from 3, we picked from 4, we picked from 1, and now here we are picking from 6. So it's kind of forcing us into different strategies. And here, I think that you can do a lot of different things. I mean, maybe this is where no questions asked, can lock in that Lamar Andrews stack. I mean, I don't think anybody's taking Lamar Jackson or Mark Andrews this early. So if we wanted to, we can assuredly lock that in here. Or you go BPA, and maybe we get lucky. A guy like Chase falls to us. Maybe we get McCaffrey. Let's just kind of see who goes off the board. What do you like doing from the turn?
Yeah, I like what you said. Just be a little different. Like maybe especially if you're doing multi drafts like this, if you're only doing a few, I don't think you want to do a Lamar or Mark Andrews. It's kind of like when we did our last show last week. When
Mahomes, Jackson, Kelsey, Andrews.
I bet you that team's doing all right after that Mahomes Kelsey week. So
I bet it is. Yep.
And then we take did we take Duvernay and Donovan Peoples-Jones? Like we took some good flyers on that team too. So
we did.
People trash that thing on Twitter, but I bet you it has a ticket next to it after 1 week already.
And I got to say, man, we obviously have some misses, but there were a few calls that the 3 of us, or the 2 of us, the 3 calls that I'd say that we kind of nailed throughout the offseason. And oh my God, it's 1 week, so try not to overreact here. But you and I were both all about Devin Duvernay, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Curtis Samuel. I feel like we had at least one of those 3 in almost every single build that we did this offseason, and all of them look to be big parts of their offenses week 1. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah, Herbert looked good too. So don't forget our boy.
He did. He did.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of misses. Like we just talked this last draft, we just
Nico
barely
Collins.
did. And Logan Thomas, like I was
Yeah.
completely off of him. Yeah, there's Michael Thomas. I was completely off of him. Like he looks like I might have missed a big chance there. So there's lots of misses too, and I think that's the important part of this industry. Like people need to talk about those more often.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
so do we go McCaffrey here? I mean, I really wanted Andrews Lamar, but I mean, this seems like a pretty tough spot to pass up on McCaffrey. What are your thoughts? Or do we just want to get different and go with this one? I don't think many people are going to have a Lamar Andrews stack, so this is a good way to separate ourselves and really build in a high ceiling stack. Is this what we do here?
I kind of like it.
Cool. Why not?
Because I think McCaffrey, Mixon, Swift, like if one of those get back to you, you're still okay. Like,
Yep.
and then if they don't, Javonte Williams, you have to settle for, or Fournette or Chubb. Like, I think Chubb's in for a big game, but like he
No.
looked so good last week.
Well, one other thing I'll say, James, and I'll just get a little bit sentimental here, but doing the show over the offseason, I learned so much from you, and just kind of talking through as we're doing these drafts was a ton of fun. And I think that it's really important for people to do that because we get so dug into our own takes that I
Mm.
remember you and I drafting and you saying, "Hey, let's go with Tyler Higbee here," and me saying, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me! Tyler Higbee sucks. I don't want anything to do with Tyler Higbee." Then you kind of sold me on him. I started drafting some Tyler Higbee, and the guy sees 9 targets week 1. So you got to get excited about that type of opportunity. So I think it's really, it's been a fun exercise for sure doing the show together because you push me out of my comfort zone. You make me reevaluate and reassess some of my takes. And I think that it's just all around made me a better drafter. So having a ton
That,
of fun doing this show and glad we're doing it.
yeah, that's why like Discords and just talking to people on Twitter, all that stuff just goes a long ways because you don't want to lock in on takes like on your own takes because I think it leads you down a bad path.
Hmm.
And you don't want to act like you're better than everyone. But yeah, I think even the same, we had like the Corey Davis. I was like best ball's a different animal. Like Corey Davis is going to be valuable. Like those
Yep.
guys, nobody likes those names. So no one wants to click them, but they're gonna give you spike weeks and they're gonna score points for you.
So here we got let's see. We definitely want a Miami run back, but I don't know if there's anybody that I'm too excited about for Miami right now. Nobody on the board that's really jumping out to me. Maybe we wait and get a late Chase Edmonds or something like that. But
Like Waddle, is Waddle gone? No.
he's at 33, so let's see how
Yeah,
far.
I like Waddle in this build,
Yeah,
but
let's do
but
that
I
then.
think he would be more. You could do him at the end though. They do Mike Evans. I think you get your running back here.
Well, we get 2 picks.
Yeah, so I think you go Evans and then a running back.
So I
And
know
I
Nick Chubb. I mean, I think we got to go Fournette. I think he's the best available out of this bunch, right?
no, I mean I'm Nick Chubb over Fournette all year
Uh,
long, but yeah, I think Fournette's good for especially with Godwin. Like Fournette's
oh yeah, we've already got Evans, so I don't want to do that. That's a good call. I'm glad we talked through that one. I don't want to have Mike Evans and Fournette on the same team. We're kind of capping our own upside there. So I think that Nick Chubb makes much more sense here.
yeah,
Then we'll have
you're gonna hate this recommendation too. I think like Elijah Moore is kind of a fun one at the end. Like if you
oh
could get Elijah Moore and Waddle, like I
oh
think
I,
this
I don't hate that at all. Elijah Moore is yeah, Elijah Moore is a favorite of mine, so like that one. And then let's see what else. Yeah, so we'll get the run back there.
like Marquise Brown's probably you'd want to pick in here too.
I think I don't think there's any chance he makes it back to us, but who knows? He really pooped the bed last week, and maybe some people are going to remember that and fade him down a little bit.
But we are definitely doing a lot more correlation builds. And like you said, I think you said at the start of the episode, maybe like some of those top lineups really didn't, they just had the best players. Like they weren't really correlated. So
I mean, this was like the chalkiest week 1 I can remember. I mean, it was like the top 5 scoring wide receivers were the top 5 wide receivers that went off the board in drafts. I don't think we can expect that to last all season long. I mean, it's not going to be Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs. These guys aren't going to be smashing every week. Maybe they do.
yeah, maybe. Yeah, Elijah Moore's hard to click on just with Joe Flacco too. And it looks like they have spread out kind of offense too. So, but if that
Call me crazy.
if it's competitive, and I mean, he could have some big score in that game too.
I
So,
mean, call me crazy. I think Joe Flacco is better for Elijah Moore than Zach Wilson would be.
Yeah, see, I'm a Zach Wilson fan. I'm unfortunate that he got hurt. I was excited to see what he was going to do this year.
I know, and I'm in the same boat too. I mean, it's become a joke at this point. But Alan Lazard, you know how bummed I was to have to sit through week one without getting to see what Alan Lazard could do. Just prolonging my hopeful excitement for one more week. We'll see how maybe it happens this week. We'll see.
See, I don't think that's still a bad take or a bad pick because most of those Alan Lazard teams, you have 7, 8 receivers, and probably Peoples Jones is on those teams because you loved
Yep.
him,
Yep.
and he's gonna score points for you, and then when Lazard gets on the field, you're good.
So we've already got Michael Thomas in 2 of our 3 builds. So do we go with both run backs here? We get Jalen Waddle and Elijah Moore. Or do we want to swap one of those guys out for Michael Thomas?
I mean, you could also go like Amon-Ra with Washington again. Like you could do that, run back too. Or
We
you
don't
just
have
do,
anybody on Washington so far. So that this was
or
going
you
to
could,
auto pick. I
yeah, I
think
think,
let's go Moore to go along with Chubb. I like that. Because we've already got Mike Evans and Michael Thomas. We've got the 2 of them on 2 of our builds already. I'm not trying to have Mike Evans and Michael Thomas on over 50% of the builds that we're doing here on the show today. As valuable as those guys seem, maybe we're missing something in our analysis.
yeah. And I think, well, that's kind of how I draft in best ball and kind of how I draft in these, where yes, I love the players. I want to give you all the player takes, but it's all about this like construction, like how we're thinking through each round and why we want that player. It's more about like the situation or the build that we're putting together. So it almost doesn't even matter the names. Like Elijah Moore, I think is you want to win $50,000. If he goes for 30 points, he's the kind of guy that's going to give you leverage too. So
Right. And you could pivot there and go Garrett Wilson if you're trying to get really different. Garrett Wilson pulled some decent targets last week, and really what we're looking for, it's not that we're saying, hey, you need to go out and draft Elijah Moore this week. It's that we had Nick Chubb, and if we're expecting Nick Chubb to have a huge game on the ground, more likely than not, it's going to put the Jets in a position where they're going to have to throw the ball, and who are they going to throw the ball to? Either Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson, most likely. So it just makes sense from a roster construction more than anything else.
yeah, and the goal is not to like if you wanted just to min cash these, like yeah, just take the top player on your rankings, on your projections, and you probably have a good shot at doing that in each one. But you kind of have to take shots like that at the end of these on these drafts if you want to be like in the top 1%.
And that's what we're aiming for. As fun as it would be to win $7 on a $5 entry, I'm hoping to win 50 grand. And here we are in the final draft we're doing on the show.
I'm hoping you win all your money back so then we can do it all again next week.
Right. And if not, I will be sending an invoice to Joe Bryant saying, hey, this show cost James and I quite a lot of money this year. But here we are picking from the 6 hole again. Last time we had this pick, we went with Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson. As fun as that one was, let's switch it up a little bit. I think we just go with BPA for this one and then kind of build out our roster from there.
Yeah, and it would be nice. So you get the 1-on-1, and then at the 2-3 turn, and you get Lamar and Mark Andrews, and we almost got it that one time. So yeah, I think you try it one time when you're picking here at the turn, but yeah, we don't need to do that again.
I'm disappointed that we don't have a single team with Jamar Chase, but I'm gonna have to do some more of these just to find a way to squeeze Jamar Chase into my roster. That man is just unbelievable. Again, we try not to focus on player takes too much, but he's just a freak, man. Watching him last week was insane. And I mean, he had that touchdown that was, very clearly a touchdown that didn't count as a touchdown. I mean, he was away from, just a bad call away from being the overall wide receiver 1 this week. He's wrote that article about him a while back, but we might see the best fantasy season in NFL history from Jamar Chase this year. So we want to go BPA here. We've already got Saquon.
Barkley's your guy. Don't you want him again?
I do want Barkley again, and we don't have any Pittman yet. I mean, is this a reach on Pittman? I know you like Debo, but I'm gonna go with Pittman on this one. Make an executive decision, and I'm just gonna take 2 of my guys for this final draft that we're doing. Debo concerns me, man. If there was, I feel like the way that the weather was in Chicago was obviously weird and tough to predict, but I feel like that should have worked in Debo's favor more than anything. And he got the carries on the ground. he just was not effective with him. PFF actually graded him as the worst rusher in that game. Between both sides of the ball, Bears and 49ers, Deebo Samuel was the worst rushing graded player in that game. I'm far from freaking out at this point, but I was fading Deebo a little bit in the offseason. I'm getting a little bit concerned now seeing what this 49ers offense could look like.
Yeah, he was a guy I was fading as well. I think I just kind of like him in these, just with if he's there in the third round, kind of player, like who he
Right.
falls to. I think he's worth it still. But yeah, you're gonna do a few of these, so you don't want to just lock into certain players too. So I think you want a variety of all these kind of players. He's just like a guy that could break a slate, like we're off of him. I get that, but
Yeah. Somehow, yeah, he'll rip off 2 touchdowns from, his own territory and finish the game with 180 yards and a pair of touchdowns like we saw quite a few times last year. I mean, the guy, I got to admit, as a Bears fan, even though he was having a down game, anytime you see them hand the ball off to Deebo, you're holding your breath and just like, please, just don't run through our entire defense. It's just what he does.
No, I think we're seeing on these too. Like we want those top 3 receivers or JT. Like those top 4 picks are very valuable in this. Like I think
McCaffrey is sliding.
I think by the end of the week though, he'll get hyped up in a lot of DFS stuff, and you'll see him kind of like a top 5 in this format.
So not crazy about any of the bringbacks here. We can get DJ Moore, but I think we could probably wait on him a little bit.
Is Kyler gone? That would have been nice to get the Marquise Kyler, but no one's gone.
Yeah, there's nothing I really like too much here. Do we want to just go with Marquise Brown, just naked, hoping that he can bounce back, and then
we can go with Waller. Then you get both sides of that game too.
Cool. All right.
With Marquise.
Good. I missed that one. Yeah, cool. All right. That works for me.
And then I kind of like if you went Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence too, like something weird like that.
There you go. Just straight up stacking the final picks. I like it. All right, let's see
Well,
how this drops to us. We need a quarterback and a wide receiver.
Well, you get the run back with Pittman. You're investing in Pittman. We're hoping for a shootout in that game.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is the kind of stuff where, you only get this type of knowledge from doing a lot of these drafts. And it's it's like watching I don't know. It's impressive, James, the way that you can kind of think of these things on the fly.
Oh, yeah, it's just so many best ball drafts, right?
And I mean, if he slides, which I'm not anticipating, well, there goes Russ. So never mind there. Yeah, because I'm not crazy about Derek Carr. We've already got him in one. I like Derek Carr with the Adams stack, but not as crazy with Waller. But if you're drafting Waller and paying up for him, it kind of makes sense. So maybe we throw Carr in the queue here. We talked about both of us are expecting an Allen Robinson bounce back. I mean, is it crazy to go with Matthew Stafford and Allen Robinson with our last 2 picks and seeing if maybe that could actually come to fruition?
Yeah, I like that. And the same with like Trey Lance, Ayuk. Like, yeah, just kind of be weird with it.
Everyone else is going to have the Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp stack, but out of the 56,000 entries in this tournament, I doubt there are a lot of Matthew Stafford, Allen Robinson stacks. That 8.8 point projection is pretty rough to look at. So what are we doing? I mean, we can do that. Is Trey Lance still on the board? Yeah, here's Trey Lance, and then you said Ayuk.
Yeah, or Brandon Cooks is a nice play too. I think he's not going to be drafted in all these, I bet.
Yeah, and then do we want to do that with Davis Mills?
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like that's just getting a little too cute with it.
I really like Christian Kirk. Did somebody take him? I think if it was me, I'd go Christian Kirk, but
then Lawrence.
I really like
because we got because that works well with Pittman, who we paid up for. So we can do any of these. We don't have anybody in Atlanta though. We don't have anyone in Seattle. So let's go with there it is. It took 5 drafts, but we finally got weird with it. I'm a little chalky with the first few, but we went Saquon 101.
Lamar Andrews was a unique one too, I think.
Yeah, we had a Saquon 101. We had a Lamar Andrews at 6 and 7, and then here Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk. So definitely found ways to get different and get unique without bleeding too much value. These are kind of fun. We'll see how these go.
Yeah, I think for when I say rankings, get your rankings in. ranked top 40, 50 players, whatever. But I don't think it's that. I think you really want your top 20 pretty well ranked. And then after that, you're just going to be doing what you were doing in the search bar and kind of thinking through the game theory. So like we did as well. So,
well, James, I didn't know if we were going to be able to get 5 in, but we did. We did 5 in less than 50 minutes. So pretty proud of that. And we'll see how this goes next week. We might be trying out some new contests. They got the Hail Mary, which is similar to this, but you're drafting against 11 other people as opposed to drafting against 5 other people. So those drafts are a little bit longer, and you only get one shot at them. Might be doing some in-season best ball, like they, might be opening up or doing best ball for the rest of the year. Underdog is constantly rolling out new stuff, so we're going to keep doing the show in season, trying to highlight whatever they got that they're going to be rolling out. If you haven't already signed up for Underdog, first of all, I don't know why you're watching the show, but second of all, if you haven't signed up, go ahead and do that. Use promo code Footballguys, and you get a 100% deposit match on your initial deposit up to $100. You can also find a referral code in the YouTube description right below. But James, before we sign off, anything else that you'd like to talk about here?
Yeah, so those are just a lot of fun to draft, and that's why we do these drafts, and that's why I support Underdog, why I love Underdog, why I put my money in Underdog is just because it's fun. Like at the end of the day, it's fun to draft those kind of teams. I also think that they offer single game NFL. So if you're want to have a fun little sweat for like Monday night game and Thursday night game coming up, yeah, and the prize for the Thursday night game, I believe, is still like 10 grand to first. So it's hard to get unique in those because it's like 3-man. All the teams look the same. So there's only like 12 players going off the board the whole time. No quarterbacks in those. So it kind of depends like who picks players in front of you, and you hope guys slide, but it's also fun.
And I think that's what makes it fun too. DFS nowadays with the optimizers and so many people, putting out similar information and everybody working pretty much playing the same game. Everybody has the same salaries that they're dealing with. This is so much different. We talk about all the time. What I like about Underdog so much is my favorite part of drafting is, or my favorite part of fantasy football is drafting. And this, you get to draft every single week. So, I mean, crazy stuff happens. When I did mine last year, or last week, my Hail Mary attempt ended up being a complete bust. But Kyler Murray was, his ADP was 13. I got him at pick 33, where he slid almost all the way to the end. And that's something where I was able to accrue value that you would never be able to do in DFS because you're locked into the salaries that they give you. Here, crazy things happen in drafts, so you can get really unique and different builds. So I couldn't recommend it enough. I love Underdog, and I'm really happy that we can do the show together.
Yeah, no, and I think this is going to be fun just moving forward throughout the season, doing these Underdog drafts. Just there's not a lot of information out there, so hopefully like people will tune in and listen, and they'll learn a little bit, and hopefully they can ask us questions, and maybe we can learn from them as well. So there's probably a lot of angles that we're missing too. So
yep,
we do not have this game beat. We're trying to figure it out.
Just like the rest of you. Well, want to thank everybody for tuning in. So excited that football is back, and we have some, actionable stuff that we can talk about. Looking back at last week, looking forward at next week, makes for much more fun content than our 500th best ball draft together. But James, before we sign off, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, just Twitter's where I'm usually at, James Brimacombe. So anything you want to discuss football wise, just shoot me a message or Radiohead, whatever. So hockey.
And you can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube page, youtube.com/footballguys. You can see all of our full length shows, all of our short videos, as well as live versions of our podcast. So if you don't want to wait for the podcast to come out, subscribe on YouTube and you can see it live before the processing and before it hits all podcast platforms. Thank you so much for tuning in. And James and I will see you next week.